The space station was alive with noise, light, and the smell of hundreds of alien species packed into one giant floating city. Ethan, a human cargo pilot, had been here before, but only to deliver goods. He never stayed longer than he had to. This time, though, his crewmates convinced him to relax for the night before their next job. They ended up in a busy part of the station called the Veiled Quarter, a place filled with strange music, glowing signs, and the sound of coins, and credits changing hands. His friend Jalen nudged him toward a doorway lit by flickering green light. "Come on, Ethan, just one game. You might get lucky." "I'm not a gambler," Ethan muttered, but followed anyway. Inside, the air was thick with smoke from alien herbs. Round tables were spread across the room, each one crowded with creatures, of different shapes and sizes. Some had eyes like glowing gems, others had long hands with too many fingers. In the far corner, a group laughed in deep, rumbling tones. In the center sat the main poker table, lit by a single pale lamp. Ethan didn't know the rules of alien poker, but the dealer, a tall, lizard-like being with silver scales, explained quickly. The cards were strange, triangular, with shifting colors, but the basic idea was similar to the human version. Ethan decided to sit in, using a small stack of credits. He played cautiously at first, just trying to keep up. Then, strangely, his luck started to change. Hand after hand, he won. The others at the table looked annoyed, then curious. His stack of credits grew, and soon he was playing in the final round of the night. The dealer leaned forward, his yellow eyes glittering. "Final hand. Grand prize." Ethan glanced at the center of the table, expecting a chest of gold or maybe some rare alien gem. Instead, a hush fell over the room as someone stepped forward. She was tall and graceful, her skin a smooth, pale silver with faint blue markings along her neck and arms. Her eyes, a deep shade of violet, locked on Ethan with calm focus. She wore an elegant cloak that shimmered faintly under the dim light. "The Princess Kalyra of the Zevrathi Empire," the dealer announced. "Placed here as wager by her own bloodline. The winner of this hand will claim her." Ethan froze. "Wait, what? You mean—" "Yes, human. You play for her." The dealer smiled thinly. "It is binding in Zevrathi law." The room buzzed with whispers. Some laughed, others looked shocked. Ethan glanced at Kalyra, who stood perfectly still, watching him with an unreadable expression. "This is insane," Ethan muttered under his breath. But walking away now would mean losing his winnings and possibly angering the entire table. He decided to play, partly because he was in too deep, partly because he didn't know what else to do. The hand began. Cards were dealt, bets placed. Ethan's palms felt damp, but the same strange luck followed him. The final card hit the table, and Ethan laid down his hand. 3 glowing reds and 2 golden triangles. The dealer hissed in approval. "The human wins." The crowd erupted in mixed cheers and groans. Kalyra stepped forward, her cloak shifting as she moved. She stopped directly in front of Ethan. Up close, she seemed even more striking, her features sharp but soft, her voice low and smooth when she spoke. "You have won, human," she said. "By the law of the wager, I am now yours." Ethan blinked, still not believing it. "I didn't know the prize was a person." "Nonetheless, it is done," Kalyra replied, her tone calm, almost formal. "What will you do with me?" Every eye in the room was on him. Ethan could feel the tension pressing in. He swallowed and stood. "First thing I'm doing is getting us out of here." He reached out, not to grab her, but to guide her away from the table. She followed without hesitation, her long stride matching his. As they walked toward the door, Ethan heard whispers, some curious, some angry, some almost threatening. Once outside in the quieter corridors of the station, Ethan stopped and faced her. "Listen, I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't. Even though this was possible, I believe you," Kalyra said simply. "But the fact remains, you are now bound to me by my people's law." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. "And if I say I don't want this?" She tilted her head, her violet eyes watching him closely. "Then others will take me, and they will not be as kind." That made him pause. There was no fear in her voice, but there was a quiet certainty that told him she was speaking the truth. "All right," Ethan said at last. "Then we need to figure out what's going on before someone else decides to claim you." She nodded once, then glanced around the corridor. "You should know. Some will already be coming for us. Winning me makes you a target, human." Ethan's stomach tightened. "Great. So I just won a princess. And now I'm in trouble." Her lips curved slightly, almost like a smile. "Yes, you did." Ethan didn't have time to think about the strange law or how he'd ended up with an alien princess as a prize. Kalyra's warning echoed in his head. Others would already be coming for them. On a station like this, information spread faster than light. They moved quickly through the narrow corridors, passing merchants packing up their stalls and repair crews fixing flickering lights. Kalyra walked with calm confidence, her eyes scanning every shadow. Ethan noticed how people stepped aside when they saw her, some out of respect, others out of fear. "You're not exactly blending in," Ethan muttered. "I have never blended in," Kalyra replied, her voice quiet but steady. "And now neither will you." As if to prove her point, a group of rough-looking aliens appeared from a side passage. Their leader, a broad creature with tusks and scarred armor, stepped in. Front of them, "Hand over the princess, human," the leader growled. "You don't know what you've gotten yourself into." Ethan raised his hand slightly. "You're right, I don't. But she's not going with you." The alien's eyes narrowed. "Then you both die here." Before Ethan could react, Kalyra moved. She stepped forward with fluid speed, dodging the leader's swing and striking him in the side with a quick twist of her hand. The big alien staggered, gasping, and she swept his legs out from under him. The others hesitated, unsure whether to attack or retreat. Kalyra's gaze was cold and unshaken. "Go," she said firmly. "Tell whoever sent you that the human is under my protection now." They backed away, dragging their leader with them. Ethan stared at her. "Okay, so you can fight. Good to know." She glanced at him. "You think a princess cannot defend herself? My brother made sure I was trained." "Remind me to thank him," Ethan said, then started walking again. "We need to get to my ship before more of them show up." They made their way to the docking bay, weaving through service tunnels to avoid open areas. Kalyra kept silent most of the way, but Ethan could feel her watching him, studying how he moved, how he reacted. Finally, they reached his small freighter, the Silver Hawk. It wasn't much, just a compact cargo ship with patched hull plates and a slightly dented side. But it was fast enough to outrun trouble. As they stepped inside, Ethan sealed the door and powered up the engines. Kalyra stood near the control console, her eyes taking in every detail of the cramped cockpit. "You travel alone?" she asked. "Most of the time," Ethan replied. "Crew comes and goes, but this ship's mine." She nodded slowly. "Then perhaps it is better this way. Fewer people to betray you." Ethan gave her a quick look. "You sound like you've had a lot of people do that to you." "I am royalty," she said simply. "Loyalty is rare in my world." The ship lifted off from the station, engines humming as they pushed into open space. For a brief moment, Ethan thought they were safe. Then the sensors beeped. A massive warship appeared on the screen, sleek and black, with the glowing crest of the Zavrathi Empire on its side. Ethan swore under his breath. "Let me guess. That's yours." Kalira's eyes narrowed. Not mine, my uncle's. He will not let me leave so easily. The warship moved to block their path, sending out a transmission. A deep voice filled the cockpit. Return the princess immediately, or be destroyed. Ethan glanced at her. You want to explain, or should we just run? She met his eyes. If they take me, I will be forced into a marriage that will give my uncle more power. We must escape. That was all Ethan needed to hear. He pushed the throttle, sending the Silver Hawk diving toward a nearby asteroid belt. The warship followed, firing bursts of energy that lit up the darkness. The small freighter shook, alarms blaring, but Ethan kept weaving between the tumbling rocks. Kalira gripped the side rail but didn't panic. There's a narrow pass ahead, she said, pointing at the screen. If you can make it through, their larger ship will not follow. Hope you're right, Ethan muttered, guiding the ship toward the gap. The asteroids closed in around them, scraping against the hull. Behind them, the warship slowed, unable to fit. When they finally burst out the other side, Ethan let out a breath. Okay, we made it. Kalira's expression didn't soften. For now. But they will not stop. By the end of this day, every bounty hunter in this sector will know your name. Ethan leaned back in his seat. Great, just what I needed. He glanced at her. So, Princess, you got any plan for what we do next? She met his gaze evenly. Yes, but first, you must know the truth about why I was in that game. Ethan kept the Silver Hawk on a steady course, but his mind was racing. Kalira sat across from him in the small galley, her hands folded neatly on the table. She looked calm, but there was a sharpness in her eyes that told him she was thinking several moves ahead. All right, Ethan said finally. You said there's a truth I need to know. I'm listening. Kalira took a slow breath. My appearance at that poker table was not an accident. My brother put me there. Ethan frowned. Your own brother bet you in a card game? That's messed up. It was the only way to free me, she replied. In the Zavrathi Empire, every royal is bound by council-approved marriages. I was to be wed to a warlord named Varas. He is feared even among my people. My brother knew that if I became his wife, Varas would control our fleets, our armies, and the throne itself. Many would suffer. Ethan leaned forward. So he thought losing you in a game would get you away from this guy? Yes. If a non-Zavrathi won me, the council's laws would still bind me to that winner. But it would break Varas's claim. It was a desperate plan, but my brother trusted that a stranger might give me a chance to escape. She paused, then added, he also knew I could handle myself if the winner turned out to be cruel. Ethan gave a small smirk. And instead, you got me. Lucky you. Kalira tilted her head slightly. Lucky for both of us, perhaps. You do not seem interested in using me for power. Yeah, well, I'm more interested in staying alive, Ethan said. And from the sound of it, being near you makes that harder. Before she could answer, the ship's warning alarm beeped. Ethan went to the cockpit and Kalira followed. On the scanner, several smaller ships were approaching fast. Their transponders were unmarked. Bounty hunters. See? Ethan said. Trouble already found us. Kalira's gaze stayed on the screen. They are not Imperial warships. These are hired hunters. They will try to disable us and board. Not if I have anything to say about it, Ethan muttered, gripping the controls. The hunters fanned out, trying to cut off his escape. Ethan dropped the Silver Hawk into a steep dive, skimming the edge of a nearby moon. The ship shook as laser fire clipped the shields. Kalira moved to the secondary console, her fingers flying across the controls. I will divert more power to shields, she said, but you must keep us moving. Ethan grinned despite the danger. Now you're speaking my language. The chase was fast and brutal. The bounty hunters knew the terrain, looping around rocky outcrops to block his path. Ethan pushed the engines to their limit, spinning through a narrow canyon. One of the hunters miscalculated and smashed into the rocks, exploding in a burst of light. 2 ships remained. Kalira's voice was calm but urgent. There is a gravity rift ahead. Dangerous for large ships, but we can use it to lose them. Gravity. Rift, Ethan asked. A tier in space where gravity fields twist. Risky, but it will scatter them if they follow. Ethan didn't like the sound of it, but he didn't have better options. He angled the ship toward the swirling patch of space. Ahead. The rift pulled at the hull, making the controls shake violently. Behind them, one bounty hunter broke off, but the other tried to follow, only to be dragged into the rift and torn apart. Once they were clear, Ethan slowed the ship and let out a long breath. "Remind me never to fly near one of those again," Kalira gave a faint smile. "You handled it well. Few pilots could." "Thanks, but I'd rather not test my luck twice," Ethan said. He checked the long-range scanner. "Good news. We've got some space between us and any more ships. Bad news. Your uncle's warship is still somewhere out there. Then we must reach someone who can help us before they find us," Kalira said. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "And who's that?" "The Free Fleets," she replied. "A coalition of ships that refuse Imperial control. They are skilled fighters, and they have reason to hate my uncle." "And you think they'll just help us because you ask?" Ethan asked. "No," she said simply. "But I can offer them something they want. I know the locations of the Empire's secret supply lines. With that information, they can cripple his power." Ethan rubbed his chin. "Sounds dangerous, which means it's probably our best shot." Kalira's expression stayed steady. "You won me in a game of chance, Ethan. Now we must gamble again. But with the galaxy watching," Ethan stared out at the stars ahead. "Yeah. I'm starting to think this whole thing is one big poker hand." She looked at him with the smallest hint of amusement. "Then play it well, human." The Silver Hawk drifted through deep space, its engines running low to avoid detection. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, but Ethan felt the weight of every second. Kalira had given him a set of coordinates, somewhere in a remote sector, where the Free Fleets were said to gather. "How sure are you they're still there?" Ethan asked as he adjusted the navigation. 80%, Kalira replied, standing behind him. "The Free Fleets move often, but they prefer this sector because it has many hidden routes. It makes it harder for the Empire to attack them." 80%, Ethan muttered. "That's not exactly reassuring." Kalira's tone was calm. "Nothing is certain in my world, human. You must learn to play with the odds you are given." Ethan gave a short laugh. "That's starting to sound like poker talk." For several hours, they traveled without incident. Ethan kept the ship's scanners on high sensitivity, but the quiet was unsettling. Then, as they neared the edge of the target sector, the alarm blared. A single ship appeared on the scanner. Not a massive warship, but a sleek interceptor. "Imperial design," Kalira said, her eyes narrowing. "They must have been waiting for us." The interceptor didn't open fire. Instead, a transmission crackled through. "Silver Hawk, this is Captain Riven of the Zevrathi Guard. Surrender the princess and you will be spared." Ethan kept his voice steady. "Yeah, I'm gonna pass on that offer. You will regret it," the voice replied coldly. The transmission ended, and the interceptor began to pursue. Ethan pushed the throttle, but the interceptor was faster. He wove through a cluster of small asteroids, hoping to lose them, but they matched his moves perfectly. Kalira leaned over the console, her eyes sharp. "They are hurting us," she said, "forcing us toward a trap." Sure enough, as they emerged from the asteroid field, 3 more interceptors appeared ahead, forming a blockade. Ethan cursed under his breath. "Guess 80% just dropped to 0. Kalira moved to the weapons console. "Then we make our own odds." "You sure you know how to use that?" Ethan asked. She didn't answer with words, just fired a precise volley at the nearest ship. The interceptor swerved, its shields flaring under the impact. Ethan took the chance to dive the Silver Hawk beneath them, engines screaming as they broke formation. The enemy ships regrouped quickly, chasing after them. Ethan's hands gripped the controls tight as he zigzagged through the debris of an old battlefield, wrecked ships and drifting metal filling the space like a deadly maze. "Don't hit anything," Kalyra said calmly. "Yeah, thanks for the reminder," Ethan muttered, dodging the jagged hull of a derelict cruiser. The interceptors followed, but the debris made it harder for them to keep formation. Ethan saw an opening, a narrow gap between two massive wrecks. "Hold on," he said, and shot through the gap. One interceptor tried to follow but clipped its wing on the wreck and spun out, exploding in a bright flash. 2 ships remained. Kalyra fired again, scoring a direct hit on another, which spun away trailing smoke. The last one kept coming, determined. Ethan's eyes scanned the debris field until he spotted a large section of hull drifting at just the right angle. "Kalyra, on my mark, hit the thrusters hard," he said. She didn't question him. "Mark." Ethan cut power suddenly, letting the Silver Hawk drift toward the wreck. The pursuing interceptor adjusted its course too late. Kalyra slammed the thrusters, and the Silver Hawk shot upward, leaving the enemy to crash straight into the massive hull. The debris scattered, and silence returned to the cockpit. Ethan let out a long breath. "And that, Princess, is how you bluff in space." Kalyra's lips curved faintly. "Perhaps you are not entirely unskilled." "Glad. You approve," Ethan said, steering them back on course. "Now let's hope your Free Fleet friends are still where you think they are." 2 hours later, the scanner picked up several large ships hidden within a dense nebula. The vessels were mismatched, different designs, different colors, but all heavily armed. "We've found them," Kalyra said with certainty. As they approached, a voice came over the comms. "Unidentified ship, state your purpose, or be destroyed." Kalyra stepped forward and spoke clearly. "This is Princess Kalyra of the Zevrathi Empire. I come seeking alliance against my uncle." There was a long pause, then the voice returned, wary but curious. "Dock with flagship Iron Talon. We will hear what you have to say." Ethan glanced at her. "Looks like the game's still on." "Yes," she said, her eyes fixed on the looming ships ahead. "But now the stakes are much higher." The Silver Hawk docked with the Iron Talon, a massive warship painted in black and red. Its surface was covered with heavy cannons and battle scars. As the docking clamps locked in place, Ethan glanced at Kalyra. "You sure they won't just blast us the second we step inside?" "If they wanted us dead," Kalyra replied calmly, "we would not be talking right now." The airlock opened and they stepped into a dimly lit corridor. Waiting for them was a tall alien with scaled skin and a mechanical eye. His armor was mismatched, clearly taken from different battles. "I am Captain Drogan," he said in a low, rumbling voice. "You have 5 minutes to convince us not to throw you out an airlock." Kalyra met his gaze without flinching. "I come to offer you information that can cripple the Zevrathi Empire. In return, I ask for your fleet's protection." Drogan gave a short, humorless laugh. "We've heard promises like that before. They usually end with us being hunted. This will end with you being feared," Kalyra said. "I know the locations of the Empire's secret supply lines, routes even their own officers do not speak of. Destroy them, and my uncle's warships will starve." Drogan's mechanical eye whirred as he studied her. "And why would a Zevrathi princess betray her own blood?" "Because my uncle is a tyrant," she said simply. "And because he has put a price on my head. Helping me will hurt him." "I believe that is reason enough for you." Drogan glanced at Ethan. "And the human?" "Wrong place. Wrong time," Ethan said with a shrug. "But I've got a fast ship and a habit of surviving when I shouldn't. Guess that makes me useful." Drogan was silent for a moment, then turned. "Come. The council will decide. They were led into a large chamber where several captains of the Free Fleet sat around a curved table. Some were human, most were alien. All carried the hard look of people who had fought too many battles. Kellyra stepped forward, her voice clear and steady as she explained the supply routes, the weak points, and the timing of the Empire's convoys. She spoke with precision, answering every question without hesitation. Ethan watched the captain's expressions shift from doubt to interest. Finally, a short, broad-shouldered human captain leaned forward. "If what you're saying is true, we can bleed the Empire dry in weeks, but we'll be painting a target. The size of a planet on our backs." "You already have that target," Kellyra replied. "The difference is, now you will have the first strike." There was a long pause before Drogon spoke. "Very well. We will commit to this plan. But understand, if you deceive us, we will find you." "Understood," Kellyra said. The meeting ended with a plan to strike one of the main supply lines within the next 2 days. As they left the chamber, Ethan finally spoke. "Well, that went better than I thought." "You doubted me?" Kellyra asked. "Constantly," Ethan said with a small smile. "But you're full of surprises." Back aboard the Silver Hawk, they prepared to scout the route ahead of the attack. Kellyra studied the navigation charts while Ethan checked the ship's systems. "You realize," Ethan said, "that once we hit this supply line, your uncle's going to come after us with everything he's got." "He already is," Kellyra replied. "This will simply make it faster." "Great," Ethan muttered. "I was hoping for a nice quiet escape. Instead, we're going to war." Kellyra glanced at him. "You could still walk away and leave you to deal with this alone." Ethan shook his head. "Not my style." The next day, the Silver Hawk slipped through a dense asteroid field toward the coordinates Kellyra had given. Sure enough, a line of Imperial cargo ships appeared on the scanner, escorted by light cruisers. "There they are," Ethan said. "You weren't kidding about them being hidden. No one would think to look out here." "That is why they have remained untouched," Kellyra replied. "Until now, they recorded the convoy's movements and returned to the Iron Talon." With the data in hand, the Free Fleets prepared for the strike. Ships armed and engines roared to life. Ethan stood on the bridge beside Kellyra as Drogon gave the order. "Move. Out. Hit them hard. Hit them fast." As the fleet jumped into hyperspace, Ethan felt the tension in the air. The poker game seemed like a lifetime ago. Now every move they made could decide the fate of more than just themselves. Kellyra's voice was quiet but certain. "Once this begins, there is no turning back." Ethan met her gaze. "Good thing I never fold." The fleet dropped out of hyperspace right on top of the Imperial supply line. Cargo ships stretched across the dark void, moving in slow, careful formation. Their light cruiser escorts began to scatter when they realized what was happening, but it was already too late. The Free Fleets struck fast. Missiles tore through the first cruiser, and heavy cannons shredded the cargo ship's shields. Ethan guided the Silver Hawk through the chaos, weaving between explosions while Kellyra worked the targeting systems. "Focus on the escort ships," she said, her voice steady. "Once they are gone, the cargo is defenseless." "On it," Ethan replied, banking hard to avoid a burst of plasma fire. The Silver Hawk's cannons lit up the darkness, forcing another cruiser to break away. It was going well, too well. That uneasy feeling hit Ethan just before the scanner screamed a warning. A massive shape emerged from hyperspace, dwarfing every other ship in the battle. Its black hull gleamed with gold markings, and the crest of the Zavrathi Empire burned on its side. Kellyra's face hardened. Varus. The warlord's ship was a fortress, layered shields, heavy armor, and enough firepower to wipe out the Free Fleets in minutes. A transmission came through, filling the Silver Hawk with a deep, mocking voice. "Kellyra," Varus said, "you have run far enough. I will take you now, and I will make an example of the human who stole you." Ethan muted the comm before he could say something reckless. Okay, Princess, I'm open to ideas because fighting that thing head-on isn't one of them. Kalera's eyes were sharp. Then we do not fight it head-on. We outplay it. She quickly explained. Varys's ship relied on a central power core located deep inside. The shields were strong, but if they could overload that core, the ship would be forced to retreat or be destroyed. The problem was getting close enough to plant the overload charge. So, sneak into the biggest, most dangerous ship in the sector, Ethan said. Sounds familiar. You have done it before, Kalera reminded him. This is simply a higher stake. With the free fleets drawing the warlord's attention, Ethan piloted the Silver Hawk low along the giant ship's hull, dodging turret fire. Kalera directed him toward a maintenance hatch near the aft section. Hold us steady, she said, grabbing a small case from the weapons locker. Inside was a compact explosive device, sleek, silver, and shaped like a disc. This will do the rest. You're going out there? Ethan asked. You fly better than you sneak, she said simply, opening the airlock. Before he could argue, she was gone, moving across the enemy hull with magnetic boots. Ethan kept the Silver Hawk hovering as close as he dared, watching her, small figure through the cockpit glass. Enemy fighters broke away from the battle, heading toward him. Ethan swore and swung the ship into a tight roll, blasting the first fighter out of the sky. No pressure, Princess, he muttered. But they're getting closer. Kalera reached the hatch, attached the device, and tapped a sequence on its surface. Her voice came through the calm even now. It is set. Get us clear. Ethan didn't wait. The Silver Hawk shot away from the massive ship just as the device activated. A deep, pulsing light spread across the warlord's hull, followed by a violent surge of energy. Varys's voice roared over the comms. What have you done? Kalera's reply was sharp and cold. I've ended your game, the overload ripped through the warlord's power systems. His ship's weapons fell silent, shields collapsing in waves of flickering light. With their leader crippled, the remaining Imperial ships broke formation and jumped away. Cheers filled the comms from the free fleets. Captain Drogon's voice came through, almost amused. Well, Princess, looks like you can play a hand after all. The battle was over. The supply line was destroyed, the warlord forced to retreat, and the free fleets had struck a blow the Empire wouldn't forget. Aboard the Silver Hawk, Ethan finally allowed himself to breathe. You know, he said, when I sat down at that poker table, I thought the worst thing that could happen was losing my credits. Kalera gave a faint smile. And instead you won the highest stake of all. A princess? Ethan teased. A partner, she corrected softly. The stars stretched out before them, open and endless. The Empire would still come for them, but for now they had time. Ethan glanced at her, then back at the controls. So, Princess, he said with a grin, what's our next move? Kalera's violet eyes sparkled. We keep playing, human, and we make sure we never lose the table. The Silver Hawk slipped into hyperspace, leaving the wreckage of the battle behind and vanishing into the unknown. Two unlikely allies bound by chance, now playing for the future of more than just themselves. After the battle, the Silver Hawk and the Free Fleet slipped into a hidden system far from the Zavrathi Empire's reach. Ethan and Kalera finally had a moment to breathe. The tension that had held them tight for days eased, but the weight of what lay ahead still lingered. Kalera looked out the viewport, the stars stretching endlessly. This victory is only the beginning. My uncle will not stop until he controls every corner of the galaxy. Ethan nodded. Yeah, and with you leading the Free Fleets, I guess we've just made him more determined. He fears change, Kalera said. But change is what I represent. Ethan glanced at her. You're not just a princess anymore, are you? No, she smiled softly. I am a leader. And you have become more than a lucky player. Me? Ethan laughed quietly. I'm just trying to keep up. Kaelira's eyes held his. You are more. You have heart, courage, and a mind that surprises even me. Qualities that are rare, especially in those from your world. Ethan felt a warmth he hadn't expected. Well, I've had a good teacher. Their moment was interrupted by the ship's comm. Captain Drogon's voice came through, serious and commanding. We've detected a fleet gathering near the Outer Rim. Signs point to a major Imperial offensive. Ethan swore under his breath. Just when I thought we could relax. Kaelira's expression hardened. Then we prepare. This will be our biggest challenge yet. Over the next hours, the Free Fleets mobilized. Ships of all sizes armed and ready. Crews moving with purpose. Ethan spent time coordinating supply runs and making sure the Silver Hawk was battle-ready. Kaelira worked closely with Drogon and other leaders, planning tactics and strategies. During a quiet moment, Ethan approached.
Kaelira,
Do you ever miss your old life? Before all this fighting? She looked thoughtful. Sometimes, but I never truly belonged there. The Empire's halls are filled with politics and power games, not honor or freedom. And here? Ethan asked. Here I fight for what I believe in, and for people who want to be free. It gives my life meaning. Ethan smiled. I guess winning you in that game was the best luck I ever had. Kaelira's eyes softened. And for me, the chance to find someone who sees me as more than a prize. The days passed quickly. Finally, the Imperial fleet appeared on the horizon. A massive armada intent on crushing the Free Fleets once and for all. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal. Lasers tore through space, explosions lit the darkness, and ships were lost on both sides. Amid the chaos, Ethan piloted the Silver Hawk with skill and daring, protecting key supply ships and helping coordinate attacks. Kaelira led boarding teams on enemy vessels, using her knowledge and training to disable weapons and free captured allies. As the battle raged, Ethan and Kaelira found themselves side by side on the bridge of the Iron Talon, watching the tide. Turn in their favor? We've come far, Ethan said, breathless but smiling. And we still have a long way to go, Kaelira replied. But today, we have won a future. The Empire retreated, their fleet broken and scattered. The Free Fleets cheered, but both knew this was only one victory in a larger war. After the battle, as the fleets regrouped, Ethan and Kaelira stood on the deck of the Iron Talon, looking out at the stars. What happens now? Ethan asked. Now, Kaelira said, we build. We unite those who seek freedom, and we prepare for the challenges ahead. Ethan nodded. And maybe, along the way, I get to keep playing this game with you. Kaelira smiled, her violet eyes shining. It is a game we will win together. The stars twinkled quietly as the ships moved forward, two unlikely partners bound by chance, courage, and the hope of a better galaxy.